You didn't domesticate the wolf. Around a dying campfire, thousands of years before humans ever thought to tame anything, a wolf made the first move. And it wasn't loyalty. It was hunger. That one decision ended up rewriting an entire species' DNA. Picture an ice age camp somewhere in Eurasia, more than 20,000 years ago. Firelight. The smell of roasting meat. And past the edge of that light, eyes watching from the dark. A pack of gray wolves, drawn in by scraps nobody wanted. Most kept their distance. One didn't. Let's call her Scar. Bolder, calmer around people than the rest of her pack. She didn't know it yet, but she was about to become something the world had never seen before. Here's the strange part. Scientists still don't fully agree on how this actually started. Did humans steal wolf pups from a den and raise them by hand? Or did wolves like Scar basically domesticate themselves right under our noses without us doing anything at all? The answer changes everything about who was really in control. Fast forward past Scar, past that fire, all the way to 1914, a quarry outside Bonn, Germany. Workers dig up a grave. 2 humans, and curled between them, a dog. Later dated to roughly 14,000 years old, it's one of the oldest confirmed domestic dogs on Earth. Though some researchers think the actual bond goes back much further than that, maybe past 20,000 years. 14,000 is just the oldest date almost nobody disputes. When veterinarian Luke Janssens at Leiden University re-examined the bones in 2018, publishing in the Journal of Archaeological Science, he found something in the teeth, growth lines, scarring. This puppy caught canine distemper, a brutal, usually fatal disease, 3 separate times starting at 19 weeks old. And it wasn't even alone. Later re-examination found a second, older dog's tooth in the same grave. This wasn't a one-off. A sick dog that couldn't hunt, couldn't guard, couldn't do a single useful thing for weeks, and somebody kept it alive anyway. That's not a tool. That sounds a lot like love. So, if a bond this deep already existed 14,000 years ago, how much further back does this actually go? To answer that, you have to go back to the actual moment wolves and humans first crossed paths. And according to evolutionary anthropologist Hare at Duke University, humans probably didn't choose wolves at all. Wolves chose us. Every hunter-gatherer camp produced trash, bones, scraps nobody wanted. For a wolf, that's a free meal. If you're brave enough to get close to fire and noise and people. Most wolves weren't. Fear kept them away, and fear kept them alive out in the wild. But some, the calmer ones, with just slightly less fear wired in, started sneaking in anyway. They got the easy calories. They didn't get speared. It's the same reason certain foxes, raccoons, and pigeons still thrive in cities today, not because they're smarter, just bold enough to tolerate us. Generation after generation, those bolder wolves out-survived and outbred the nervous ones. Hare calls it survival of the friendliest. Nobody breeding anything on purpose. It's a big claim. Could you actually watch something like that happen in real time? As it turns out, yes. And it's one of the strangest experiments in modern biology. In 1959, Soviet geneticists Dmitri Belyaev and Lyudmila Trut at the Institute of Cytology and Genetics in Novosibirsk took wild silver foxes and bred them for exactly one trait: calmness around people. Nothing else. Within a few generations, something happened that nobody had selected for. The tame foxes started growing floppy ears, curly tails, patchy fur, shorter snouts. Soon after, they weren't just calm. They were actively seeking people out, wagging their tails, whining for attention, exactly like a dog greeting you at the door. Some scientists now argue the story isn't quite that clean, that a few of those traits may have already existed in the fox population before the experiment even began. Either way, the core idea held up. And if 70 years of breeding foxes could do that, what do you think 15,000 years of wolves scavenging around campfires could do? Here's the part that should bother you a little. Humans lived alongside wolves almost everywhere they went. Siberia, the Middle East, North America, for tens of thousands of years. If proximity alone was enough, we should have dozens of separate dog lineages, born wherever wolves and people overlapped. We don't. Genetic studies point to one specific, now extinct population of Ice Age wolves in Eurasia as the ancestor of every dog alive today. Not the wolves that shared land with humans in Mongolia or Japan or the American plains for just as many centuries. Some researchers even argue domestication may have happened in two separate places at roughly the same time, before one lineage simply won out, a debate nobody has fully settled. Those other wolves had the exact same opportunity. Same garbage, same campfires, same odds. And they simply never crossed over. They stayed wild, right up to today. Something happened with that one population that never repeated anywhere else on Earth, and scientists still can't fully explain why. Whatever tipped that one population over the edge, it worked. Those descendants didn't just survive, they spread. Wherever humans went next, dogs went too. Into Siberia, across the land bridge into the Americas, onto boats crossing open ocean, to islands that had never seen a mammal like this before. Geneticist Gregor Larson at Oxford University, who has spent years tracing dog DNA around the world, has called it one of the most successful partnerships in the history of life on Earth. By some estimates, there are now close to 1 billion dogs on the planet, more than every wild canid species combined, many times over. And it all traces back to wolves nobody planned on inviting in. So, who really domesticated whom? Based on everything we just walked through, the honest answer is neither side was fully in control. Wolves like Scar took the first risk. Drawn in by trash and firelight, selected generation after generation, simply for tolerating us. Humans didn't design that. We just didn't kill the friendly ones. But somewhere along the way, tolerance turned into something else. That sick puppy at Bonn Oberkassel wasn't kept alive because it was useful. It was kept alive because somebody, 14,000 years ago, couldn't bring themselves to let it die. We didn't build dogs on purpose. We built them by accident, one act of unearned kindness at a time, repeated for thousands of generations, until an apex predator turned into the animal currently asleep on someone's couch right now. Next time a dog flops down next to you, floppy ears and curled tail included, you're looking at leftover proof of the same accident, one that started in a fox cage in Siberia, and even earlier, around a fire that welcomed a wolf nobody invited. Scar never asked to become our oldest friendship. She still did. And dogs weren't the only ones we changed by accident.